more into the advanced HTML, and hey, I gotta have another video series for that too. So for the time being, this is how you can add a border. Now it goes the entire width, 100% of the window. Let's knock that down to a number of pixels by just showing the number of pixels rather than a percentage. Now of course you can do 90%, you can do 80%, you can do half, which is 50%. But I just want to show you the number of pixels. In this case we're going to go with, let's make it noticeable, 550, and we'll just leave it at that because I think it understands. No, we need to toss in the PX just for the heck of it. Save. Head on back to our browser. Refresh. Oh yeah, and the border. Let's go ahead and play with the border for a second too. That was one. See what it looks like when we fatten that puppy up a little bit. Control S for save. And refresh. You see how fat that bad boy is? So now that at this point we've tackled the table width, the border, and the censoring, and now there's a gazillion other attributes that we can toss in here to mess around with this table. So let's go ahead and let's play with some color, and I think that'll just about do it for this video. We're going to save some more of the other additions so that later on in another set of videos we can have something to work with, like an advanced set. But for the time being though, we're going to go ahead and adjust the color. So let's get on back over to our source code here, and let's mess around with this guy a little bit more by putting in on the other end of this guy here, let's put a space. And by the way, you don't really need the PX in there either. I mean, I just put that in there so you know that it's not inches or picas or any of that other stuff, but you can get by without having that in there. But anyway, I just put it in there. And then we're going to go with the background color of BG COLOR equals, and then our double quotes, backspace. Now we can do that hexadecimal color code, the 6-digit with the pound sign in front of it that I talked about in the prior video, but rather than spending time trying to go and find one that looks cool, I'm just going to type in red. That works for me. And then I'm going to go on the other side of that double quote, hit the space, and let's put in border color so we can define the color of our border rather than just a plain gray, which as it is right now, equals double quotes, backspace, and let's go with blue. And one other thing I want to toss in here as well is the space that we can define. See how close this is to the border? It's right up next to the edge of the table. Well, we can define that, and we can define the space between each one of these, because right now I don't believe there's any space. It's like zero space between the starting of the data, in this case the word vary, and the outer wall, and that would be the cell padding and the cell spacing. If you ever see those two words, that's what they're talking about. Cell spacing is the space between each cell. Okay, in other words, this line right here would be fatter, and I'll show you that here in a sec. And the cell padding is the cushioning, if you will, the padding of the walls that keeps the data inside this word from hitting up against it. Kind of cushions the blow. Think of it like that. Or my mind just has a strange way of working. But anyway, so we need the cell spacing and the cell padding. So let's go ahead and get on back here and make some definitions here. And we want the cell padding equal double quotes. We'll go with, we'll make it noticeable at 10. And most of the time you really don't want to go more than about 4 or 5, just to let you know. I'm just doing this for the example's sake. And then space, cell spacing, let's spell it right, otherwise it may not work properly. And we want to throw in the equal sign, double quote, backspace, and again we're going to go with 10. Now then, let's save this, and we've got the background color, and that's of the table, not the page. And we got the border color, blue. We got the cell padding, which is the inside of the data that keeps the words from hitting up against the wall, and the cell spacing, that's the thickness between each cell. So I can save that. Let's head on over to our browser and refresh. And you can see the padding, or the cell spacing rather. That's the thickness of these border lines here. And the cell padding, see how cushiony it is now? There's more space between the data and the walls. And of course the inside of the table is now red and the border is now blue. Pretty cool. And those are just some of the basics that you might want to get in touch with before you start tossing around codes for your web page. And like I said, there's a whole bunch more out there to mess with. Got your div tags and just all kinds of cool things we can mess with. But for the time being, this is going to get our feet wet on dealing with the tables. So I hope you learned something, and don't forget you can always rewind and pause and rewind, or drag that little bar at the bottom of your what they call a progression bar at the bottom of your video, and rewind this puppy so you can see this over and over again. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I haven't bored you to tears. Thank you much for watching, and we got plenty